coach at 16 scouted me out. He said, you got a fast arm and you can't train that sort of thing. You either got it or you don't. And he said, train with me for a year and you'll be a national champion.
The police don't go to a crime scene the day before and say, hey, we're going to collect some evidence before the crime happens. The crime happens and then they collect evidence. So it's the same. You don't need to be waiting for the evidence. You need to be the evidence.
Am I a professional athlete? I'm like, I don't know. But I don't get paid explicitly for doing athletics. According to the system, according to the high performance sports system of Australia, I'm not good enough to receive that support.
They want to know how hard it was because then they can see themselves in, your shoes and realize that anything's possible.
So 2017 is when I properly started training for the heptathlon. And in 9 months' time, I went from unranked in Australia, so with a score of 4,200 to 5,793 points, ranked number 2 in Australia in 9 months.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous.
Welcome to 4TG. Tori West, welcome to the 4TG podcast.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
If I had to describe you after doing some research, it would be the person who is just good at everything.
In some aspects, yes. I consider myself an expert generalist. So right. I'm not necessarily a specialist at one thing, but I'm pretty damn good at many things.
Yes, the jack of all trades.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of that idea of like, it takes 80% effort to be in the top 20%.
Yep.
And then it takes extra I just go to that point.
Yep.
And then I do that for many things.
I love that. Know your threshold.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, for the audience who don't know you, you are an Olympian heptathlete, a very good one at that. You've set a few records in your own right, and you're also a self-taught software engineer.
Yes.
I'm very excited to dig into what balance looks like for you. I don't know where you get 24 hours in your day to do everything you're doing, but clearly you prioritize well. And I think that's something that a lot of listeners will benefit from in terms of having to work full time, having to study and still train. So there's going to be a lot come from this episode, but I'm ready to dig in with some rapid fire questions if you are.
All right, let's do it.
Let's set the scene.
Let's do it. Just for pre-context, I have asked for no outline of what we're going to talk about today.
This is all fresh.
This is good.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right.
Prepared.
They're the best. So, number 1. What is one habit that changed your performance the most?
Sleep.
Oh, we love sleep.
Yeah, 8 hours sleep, or at least very close to that consistently. Game changer.
When did that change for you? Did you take it more seriously when you started tracking more? Or?
Yeah, tracking more was a big one. But I think in my early days of doing sport and doing the work I do, I used to be all about grind culture, like work late, get the hours in, you don't need sleep. And especially when you're probably 18 to 23, that's okay. And then you get to a point where oh no, I'm breaking down. I'm getting injured. I'm really moody and I hate life. And that's when I was like, oh crap, I really need to fix this. So
yes.
Sleep.
I love that. Big fan of sleep. Big fan. Number 2, in the heptathlon, what is your favorite event and least favorite event?
I always answer this question by saying my favorite event is whatever the one I'm doing well in at the time.
Okay. So I like that.
Okay, but in general, I do love sprinting. I didn't realize I had decent speed until I started doing heptathlons, and so I know how to hit a 200 really aggressively. Mm-hmm. It always feels good running fast. High jump, when I'm on, sometimes I'm just a bit off and I miss my pocket, but jumping high feels really good. And javelin is always going to be one that as soon as you throw a good javelin, you feel it before it even lands. It's just a beautiful feeling. And I am a very good javelin thrower for a heptathlete. So those 3 are my top 3. And my favorite depends on what's going well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were a javelin thrower and high jumper first, is that right?
Correct. So I first made a rep team, I guess, when I was a kid for high jump.
Yep.
Naturally pretty good. I didn't really train. Unless you count this as training, my dad taught me to jump on my trampoline with tent poles.
That's absolutely training.
And he did high jump when he was a kid, so my goal was just to jump higher than him. So that was when I was 12, 13. I jumped 163 at 12, which was pretty good.
Wow.
And then went through puberty and didn't get much taller and put on a little bit of weight. And then a coach at 16 scouted me out. He said, you got a fast arm and you can't train that sort of thing. You either got it or you don't. And he said, train with me for a year and you'll be a national champion. And
wow. All your money back?
Well, he didn't say that, but I didn't pay him. He was a good coach, did it out of kindness of his heart, Gary Cairns. And then a year later, I was a national champion. And so that was the first time I learned that if you set yourself to the process, do the work, trust in a good coach, believe in yourself, it happens. So, so then did javelin. Then after high school, was a bit lost. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, to be honest. Very shy kid. I didn't really speak up a lot. You know, I always very reserved. Even though it seems I'm not like that because I do content. But the truth is, most of my life or younger life, I sat back and observed. And then I waited till I said something. But yeah, after high school, I loved high jump and I liked javelin. Didn't know if I'd be a good runner. Had never done hurdles before. But for some crazy reason, I was like, I'm going to do the heptathlon. I think I'm going to be good enough at it. And I did. And it turned out I was good. So
excellent. Very good, I'd say. And final question, what is the best thing that has happened to you that looked like a setback at the time?
The best thing would probably be when I missed out on the Tokyo Olympics and fractured my foot that year. Because I would say, like, this is going a little bit deeper, but I most of my adult life running from myself. And I used athletics as a way to escape a feeling. You know, I found it a really healthy outlet for me to express myself and do good things for myself. And so I just kept training like crazy. I was like into hustle culture, grind, go, run, work. And then in COVID, when I fractured my foot and when everything shut down, I was forced to stop and let my soul catch up to my body. And so in that time, even though it looked horrific, and obviously it felt horrible at the time, I was just able to learn a lot more about myself and figure out what really mattered. And, you know, for me, athletics and achievement is just a feeling. Like if you win, it's not necessarily the win, it's the feeling you get with the win. And I was like, all right, can I get that with other things? And I started to go a bit deeper into myself and what actually drives me and why I want to do the things that I do. So yeah, it was a very deep time and obviously the world was crazy. So you had nothing but time just to contemplate and go, okay, what makes sense of it all? So yeah, on paper it looked horrible and it probably looked like I was going to leave the sport. And to be honest, I was at a stage where I was ready to leave in 2022. But yeah, then I figured out my intrinsic reason on why I do it and it's pretty deep and now look where I am. So yeah.
Why do you do it?
I do it for the feeling, definitely that feeling of progress. And another thing I realized with athletics is like, it's not a right to do it, it's a privilege. And I feel privileged the fact that there's been many moments of my life that have been really hard, right? I have many excuses to be a horrible person and just make the wrong decisions. But I don't know, by the grace of God, athletics was there. I was naturally good. I had this natural outlet to feel good about myself. You know, athletics in the community were good people. I had good coaches that were like family to me and good friends. And it was just healthy. And so one person told me once, they're like, you know, they dealt with a lot of people who were in bad situations. They said, fixing broken people is very easy. You just put them around healthy people. And athletics was a lot of that for me. So the reason why is because I want to do it for the girl, my younger version of myself, that really just wanted to be good and do better. And yeah, I made myself some goals. And I said to myself that I would do it. And at the time, that was delusional at the time when I set the goals. And then I look at my life now where I am, I'm like, oh my God, I might get it. Like I'm so close. Like I'm on that tipping point of a big breakthrough. So that's one of the whys. And then the other reason is because I have 4 younger sisters. So
wow.
By default, I've always been that natural leader, the older one they look up to. And the impact of athletics and content that I do really touches young girls. And I think that's a very worthwhile reason to do it for the next generation and inspire something healthy and be the person that I needed when I was young.
Yes.
So I think that's my why now.
Yes. And it's funny that you mentioned it seemed delusional at the time, but every successful person has been called delusional and they make the impossible possible. And it goes to show how much importance of having that mindset that you can achieve anything you want. It's yourself who's going to get in your own way if you put limits on yourself.
100%. You 100%. If you don't believe it, no one will. And it has to start with you and you have to be delusional. I actually think that is a prerequisite of extreme success is delusion. And yeah, now that I am in the position I am and I look back to where I was, which I've never fully revealed that point, but there is nothing that suggested I'd be where I am now. Nothing. So yeah, it's amazing the power of believing, process, having a vision bigger than what you have right now and realizing there's something bigger than you. And if you can just like press into that and just trust, like things just happen.
And a lot of us, we look for evidence before we go after some stuff. Like, you know, you could have said how I've grown up there's no evidence of me where I want to be, so I can't achieve it. But it's like my mindset coach says a lot is that the police don't go to a crime scene the day before and say, hey, we're going to collect some evidence before the crime happens. The crime happens and then they collect evidence. So it's the saying, you don't need to be waiting for the evidence, you need to be the evidence.
There's no evidence yet.
Yet, that's right.
Yet. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's just a simple switch.
Yeah.
You're not there yet, but you will.
Absolutely. So I'm interested now, if we strip it right back, if you're comfortable, share a little bit about your childhood. And you've spoken already about what sport sort of meant, but I'd love to know the trajectory of just playing sport for fun and then how it became serious. And you've touched on how you got into athletics, but let's dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, well, for sports, I actually did all sports growing up. Very early on, 3 turning 4, I lived on the same street as an athletics club. So it was very easy to get involved in athletics. I remember the first day Dad took me, I seen a kid without a uniform, and straight away, even at that age, I was like, I can do it too because I don't have a uniform. And so the next week he signed me up. So athletics was the first sport I did, and at a young age I was naturally very good. You know, there's still records with my name, and I guess when you have early success as a kid, you start to have those feedback loops from the emotions you get of doing well, and you get a bit attached to it. So I have very early memories of good things from athletics. And then through school, you know, I had one of those tennis things with on the
string.
Yeah, and so I wanted to play tennis. I love tennis, and so I played tennis for a while. Dad put me into tennis, but we didn't it was expensive, all the sports stuff. So I only did 1 sport per year, and I got good at tennis. But the next level of tennis was like fixtures and new rackets and more coaching. It just got a bit too expensive, so we went back to athletics. But at the time, I didn't care because I loved athletics anyway. But it would have been interesting to see what I could have done.
The Australian Open.
I mean, I actually dreamed of it. I thought I could. I have a pretty good arm, but obviously that was never explored fully. So it's just a dream, bit of delusion, but you need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, tennis, and then basketball. Loved playing basketball. Got scouted out to play rep basketball, but I was really shy, so I wasn't really good in the team environment. Like, you know, I never really backed myself as good, so I could never stand out. Like, I had really good fast breaks and certain skills, but you know, in the team environment, I just didn't have the confidence. Yeah. Then went back into athletics, then basketball in high school, school sport. I seriously didn't get serious about athletics until that coach scouted me out, because, you know, then I was getting coached and I was being told what opportunities there were, like World Juniors and Australian National Championships and what the process is. And he started showing me videos and he started educating me. He was brilliant. I owe pretty much all my success to Gary Cairns and that first coach. So that was athletics. And then after high school, I was a bit lost, as I said, didn't know what I wanted to do. I watched Holly Holm knock out Ronda Rousey at UFC 203.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired because I actually thought Holly Holm was going to do it. And at the time, Ronda Rousey was untouchable, right? Untouchable. So I signed up to a boxing gym and I started doing boxing. And I met a coach named Dan Ullman, who was a really nice guy, and started doing boxing. And I started fighting. So I did 4 fights in a year, undefeated, won a state champ. And then they were going to that was around 2016. And then they were like talking to me about, you know, potentially going to Commonwealth Games for it. And I was like, and I remember the last fight I did and I won. And I remember sitting in the hotel. It was like Acacia Ridge Hotel, this like sort of Ridgy Didge sort of thing where they do fights. I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, this is not my scene. Like, I love training for boxing and I felt really fit and it's nothing like the confidence. But I'm like, I just want to protect my brain. Like, you know, I just feel like I love this, but I don't love it. Like, it's just nothing, because athletics had that first initial emotional attachment for me as a kid. I wanted to go back to athletics. I also knew that the Commonwealth Games was in 2 years' time in the Gold Coast, and I'm a Queenslander. And I thought, okay, I'd be stupid not to give it a crack. I don't want to do it for javelin. I want to do it for the heptathlon because I feel like I could be good at it. And so that's when I got straight into the heptathlon. So 2017 is when I properly started training for the heptathlon. And in 9 months' time, I went from unranked in Australia, so with a score of 4,200 points, around about that, to 5,793 points, ranked number 2 in Australia in 9 months.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous. And that was the hook I needed to validate, oh my God, I can do this.
And you just made your own evidence.
Exactly. I made my own evidence. I stuck to it. I did 5 heptathlons that season. I didn't make the Commonwealth Games in the end. I fell short at the trials because, you know, you had to be good on that day and it just didn't work out, whatever. But that process was enough for me to go,
this is it.
I can do this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, like that is absolute exponential growth.
Oh, it was
9
massive.
months.
Yeah, and I think the growth came from because I hadn't really trained it for anything. So it's easy to improve when you train. But also boxing gave me a lot of baseline fitness and a bit of grunt about me that made me a better athlete, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure all the other sports you did as well, because heptathlon, actually, let's get into a bit of heptathlon. So people who don't know it, it's 7 events over 2 days. What are the disciplines?
Yeah, so heptathlon is, 7 track and field events over 2 days. So only track and field, not, people think it's like triathlon. That's like, no. So 100-meter hurdles, high jump, shot put 200 is day 1, long jump, javelin 800 is day 2. And the goal is to perform your best in each event, and you get points based on performance. So how fast I throw, how far I throw, and the winner is the person with the most points.
Right.
It's always run in the same order, same points table, and that's how it works.
So throughout the 2 days, do you try and do you put more emphasis into your top event strategically, or do you sharpen your weapons? Quick shout out to Luthery Athletics for sponsoring today's episode. I love partnering with brands who genuinely care about keeping girls in sport, building confidence, and making them feel their best. If you're an athlete building your base right now, Luthery's flagship is their Athletic Nutrients Daily Blend, designed for your performance, brain function, gut health, immunity, and longevity, all in one scoop. It's got super greens, probiotics, and prebiotics for gut health, plus amino acids and nootropics to support energy and focus. They've also got their athletic nasal strips if you want better airflow for training or sleep. Links are in the show notes. Go check them out. All right, back to Tori.
Obviously, my training process has evolved through the years. At the beginning, you just try everything, throw everything at the wall. You're just trying to get technically better. To be honest, it takes like 10 years to get proficient at heptathlon, I think, because there are so many events to do and you cannot train like a specialist. So I can only do 1 shot put session a week, which might be 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and I call it microdosing. So for me, the base of heptathlon is running fitness. So running is the most important thing. I build everything on top of my track sessions, my general fitness when it comes to sprinting, 200 meters, so speed endurance, and the 800, which is a little bit of middle distance, but not quite. I run it like a 600 and then hold on, whereas 800 meter runners would be a lot more, they do a lot more than me, but I can't do that much. And then the next part is strength and conditioning. So you need a good strength and power profile to be able to throw a shot put, have the strength to do 2 days of events, and obviously speed. So running fitness, strength and conditioning are the foundations of everything. No matter what part of the year I'm in, I will be doing that. And then for the technical stuff, well, it will depend on the phase of the year we're in. So I'm 9 weeks away from the national championships now. So I'm training for every single event technically, right? And almost to the full extent. So for a long jump, I might do 3 full long jumps in a week. High jump, I will do full run-up jumps. So that's leading into comp. Whereas in off-season, so if you were to ask me 10 weeks ago, I would have said I'm doing 5-step high jumps or half of run-up. So it changes throughout the year. But I am trying to touch or microdose every event, every week. And that's the power of compounding actions.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you reckon you're training at the moment?
I would say about 28 hours a week. Yeah. So it's almost like a full-time job if you count recovery and seeing a physio and getting a massage. So yeah, I'm at the track nearly every day. I have 1 deload day, which is Thursdays, where I just basically do nothing. But yeah, it's pretty full-on heptathlon training.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you're working on all the different systems. So your central nervous system must be cooked after a week's training. So how important is recovery and all of that in your life?
Recovery is critical. You have to recover as hard as you train if you want to be seriously good. And I've had to learn that lesson the hard way. I used to just try and grind because one of my head coaches now, Eric Brown, he's an Olympic multi-event coach, probably arguably the best programmer there is. When I first started working with him, I just wanted to impress him. So I just was going to be like, I'm going to do all your training and just work hard. I'm going to show you how hard I can work. And I'm a workhorse. And I broke down. So I learned the hard way how important recovery is. And that, it's simple. You only adapt to the training that you recover from. So there's no point training constantly all the time if your body doesn't have a chance to adapt to it.
Yes. And what about nutrition?
Yes, foundations. So foundations. I think the foundations of peak performance for me are sleep, nutrition, and proper periodized training.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't escape those things. nutrition is like super critical. Like obviously there's supplements, but there's nothing better than getting real stuff from real food, you know? So I'm a big proponent of real food, minimal processing. My health is probably the thing I invest most in at the moment with my athletics. So regular blood tests. In the last 12 months, I started working with a specialist for my gut health. So getting the microbiome testing and making sure I'm absorbing nutrients really well. But yeah, it's so critical. It's so, so critical. And I didn't realize how many athletes don't really know the foundations of it. Because there's so much stuff online, but yeah, it's crazy.
That's right. And it's at the moment, people making so much money off the 1%ers.
Yeah.
But we just need to go back to basics.
100%. Like just basically knowing what's actually needed. So for me, I try to source good food and then I know what my macros are. Like obviously I need energy. Sorry, it goes calories, macros, micronutrients. And then at the bottom of that is below calories is making sure they're real sources of food. You know, I try to avoid synthetic processed stuff as much as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, with a lot of not misinformation, there's just a lot of tribalistic ideas about food, I think.
Yeah.
Sort of like a religion.
And people get very defensive over food because everyone eats, right? So they think that they're an expert in it.
Yeah. I'm an expert in what works for me.
Yes.
And that's about it. and people ask, it's such a big thing on social media where I think it falls into a bigger issue with young girls and body image, but they're always wanting to know what you eat. And I'm always like reluctant to do that because it's like, if you eat like me, you will not look like me.
Yes, correct.
We are all different. We all have different genetics and how we process things. So, you know, this is how I like to eat, but I'm not recommending it. This is just what I do.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely not a one size.
That's my attitude. Yeah, I'm very reluctant to share the depths of what I do nutritionally, but I am happy to share how I think about it.
Yeah. So it sounds like to be good at a heptathlon, you have to be really systems-based. And systems-based and prioritization and periodization are probably fundamentals for you. I'm now interested to know more about how Peak came along and your other side of your life, which is being a self-taught software engineer. So obviously you were trying to fill a gap that you probably felt yourself. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, with Peak, the product, so I built an app called Peak, which is a digital training diary for athletes. Very simply, you log all your data in one place and it helps you make better decisions for peak performance. So I log my training data, all my wearables come into Peak, resting heart rate, HRV, respiratory rate. I track my cycle, I track my training load and what training I'm doing. And then we can generate a lot of really cool things like readiness for each day. I can track my subjective wellness, so how I'm feeling. A lot of athletes don't realize that you cannot outsource your wellness to wearables. They do not know you better than you. And so one of the most important things as an athlete is self-awareness and body literacy, we call it. So just every day checking in on how's your mood, how's your stress, how's your recovery, and you getting a gauge of who you are. And with Peak, the beauty of it is we're taking old school technology, which is wellness, subjective checking in, and new school technology with wearables and training load and whatnot. And we bring that together to bring a readiness score that's more accurate. And it's like pretty powerful. So I built it because I needed it. You know, I think the best products you can build are ones where you solve your own problems.
Yes.
And then you work out, many other people need that as well. So the idea in its very early days was actually 6 years ago. I met my physio, Sam Leslie, on a boat in Italy at the World University Championships, and he was treating me, and he was brilliant physio. Like at the time, I hated physios. I thought they were all crap. And then I met Sam, and at the first I didn't want to work with him because he was working with two other athletes that were my competitors at the time. I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But they're so cool now. It's just stupid immaturity. But anyways, I was so impressed how he was able to help me get on top of a sciatic nerve issue I had really quickly. I was like, how'd you do that? That was magic. And it was because it was actually coming from my gut. It wasn't actually, so deep story, but we started talking and he's shared the idea of Peak. He's like, I have all these ideas for helping athletes with wellness because he deals with so many athletes. He's one of the best in the country. And I said, I can help. I'm a software engineer. I can help you do that. And so that's where the idea began, but it never really actioned because obviously life happens, COVID, I had a job and he had his work or whatever. And then during COVID, my software engineering business took off because everyone needed that sort of service at that time. Everyone was going digital. And I would say I was much more successful as a software engineer than athlete until COVID.
Right.
So I established a career before my athletics.
Yes.
And so I'm in a very good position where, if I walk away from athletics, I've got my life sorted. And during COVID, I sort of got into blockchain technology, which is another side tangent. I won't go too deep into that. But essentially what happened was I got given a really great grant to do some research development on how I can turn sports data and performance data into a digital asset for athletes so they have more control over their data, which is a very big thing, but we might be able to touch it. But that was the idea. So it's called R&D, research and development. And I started really refining my skills and going deep on what I wanted to do and how I was actually going to do it. Because I understand blockchain tech, I understand software, I understand data, but actually bringing that to athletes in a consumer market in something that's usable and friendly, that's challenging. So that happened, which was great. I had a lot of freedom to explore and see what I could do. And it was incredible. I got to travel to Amsterdam and Singapore and present, and like just so many things in my career took off. It was like crazy cool. And then in that time, I wasn't really doing athletics, and I came back into athletics in 2023. I decided I'm going to go spend 6 months in Europe by myself and go compete and see if I love this sport again. And I did. I had a great time getting back into athletics after 2 years off, or almost 3 years off with injury. And I got my confidence back. And then the next year was the Olympics, and I was like, well, better get my SHIT sorted. Like, I don't want to swear, but I was like, I better get serious about this. And I'm telling a longer story, but it leads into the thing with peak. So at the end of 2023, I was on a good place. I was like motivated as ever for the Olympics. And then the day after Christmas, I tore my hamstring.
Oh.
And I had chronic hamstring issues for a long time. Like every 6 to 8 weeks, I was tearing it. And Sam, my physio, didn't live in the same city as me. And he said to me, Tori, I want to stop patching you up. I need to help fix the problem here. And I realized at that point, I got to move. I got to move to Geelong. And so within 2 days, I got an apartment, packed up my car, and I moved. And I've been living there since. And basically, in that time, Sam and I started working together more. We qualified for the Olympics. So I had Eric Baum, my head coach, writing my programs and overseeing my technical stuff. I'd worked with a few other technical coaches as well, but Sam fixed the core of it, which was my running technique. So I stopped tearing my hamstring. I was getting the treatment I needed. And then I ended up qualifying for the Olympics in a pretty spectacular way. I got the best score by an Australian in 17 years.
Wow.
Both within 5 weeks of each other after traveling 52 or 32,000 kilometers? It was crazy. It was just an insane journey. So everything worked out. And when we got to the Olympics, I was really confident. I was like, I'm going to do a really good performance here. I feel really good. Obviously had a lot of confidence from my previous performances and was tracking data at that time. I was tracking my training and everything. But then got to the Olympics and performed crap, to be honest. Like, I wasn't injured. I didn't choke because my first event was a PB. So I wasn't like crumbling under the pressure. I just had no energy. I was just like, I'm just cooked. I don't know what to pull out of right now. And like in a heptathlon, yes, mindset matters. But if you haven't got the energies stuff there, it's like you're pulling out of nothing. And that's what I felt like. I was positive. I looked at my journal entries. I was in the right headspace, but I had no energy. And I started pulling, after the Olympics, I started pulling all these spreadsheets and showing Sam. I said, how can we work backwards from this? Because I have all this data. What am I missing? Because nothing looks obtusely wrong there. And then I started going deeper into it, and I realized I was missing my subjective wellness, like how I was feeling. I didn't realize how stressed I was, how much I was putting that aside because you meant to think positive. So I boxed it, right? And I didn't realize the stress of the logistics of a new team environment. It was my first Australian team. The Olympic Village is a lot of like stimulus going on. I wasn't sleeping that well. Like I had sleep volume, but I wasn't sleeping deep. I was very restless. And I just realized that's it. I didn't check in on myself. I didn't have that subjective knowing of what the hell was going on. Instead, I was just trying to ride this energy of the Olympics are coming up. And that's when I realized, okay, let's work backwards from this. And that initial spreadsheet was the foundation of our peak readiness score and why we bring the subjective and the objective together. Because my Oura ring wasn't telling me anything was wrong. Like, I love my Oura, but it wasn't. And so from that point on, after the Olympics, I just started working again. And at the time, my head developer who works with me, Kip, he went away for a month and we were working on other projects together. And I was like, well, he's away. I'm just going to work on peak. I'm going to start from scratch. I've already built this thing like 3 times, but let's just go deep on it. And so in a month, I built the initial version, I guess called beta version. And then not long after that, I started posting on social media daily. And I don't know what came over me to do it. I just started doing it and it did really well. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should start talking about my app in these videos and see what happens. And so I posted one video. I was like, oh, nothing will happen. Overnight, 500 people signed up. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, like this is crazy. And like people were really positive. And I was like, this is amazing. But at the time, I couldn't really go much deeper in it, to be honest, because I was so focused on nationals and world champs that year. I was determined not to repeat my mistakes at the Olympics. So through the year, like last year was pretty tough in terms of balancing everything. But certainly, so I made it to the world champs, but it wasn't a good performance. I had an injury early on in the season and I just screwed up my year, basically. It wasn't what I wanted, but a lot of great lessons. And in that whole period, I was tracking my data too. So that whole time I had 6 months to really get better at the data stuff and refine the product and go deeper into how we're going to do this and how can I, like if it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to sell it to anyone.
Yes.
And then, I got back from the world champs and went deep on it. And I went to India for a month with Kip because he's Australian, but his wife lives in India. And so we were like, let's go there. Let's go do content because he's a big content creator over there. Let's work on peak and let's see what we can do. So we started working together again, full time in that aspect. And Kip, of course, Sam was involved as well. He's always been involved. And I launched another video talking about it. And that was on November 4th. And since launching that video, we are just under 9,000 registered users around the world. Daily active users as well. So we have about 20% daily active users. So people coming on daily to log. We've collected just over 110,000 logs from athletes, just logging their training. We also have waiting lists for certain aspects of the product as well. And it's just been this really beautiful organic process where we're actually, the development of it is driven by data. It's driven by people. Like there's obviously my experience of it, but I got feedback boards of people telling me in communities of athletes around the world saying, this is what I want. We've got data from the analytics and it's just been this, it's turned into something where I was in a presentation yesterday for a company and they're like, you don't realize how hard it is to get 10,000 users on their app. And I was like, oh. So there's part of me which has very high expectations, but I don't realize how good it's been. And so that's where it's at. It's like, I'm literally building something that helps athletes. It helps me, it helps athletes. And it in some ways, it feels bigger than what I'm doing with sport, which is really cool. So, and now I'm really blessed because I have a great team working with me. So I have a team of 7 now, which is incredible. And it's just growing and growing very organically and it's beautiful. Yeah.
It proves the point though that the power of authenticity, like you were doing this because you needed it and you're addressing real world problems for athletes.
Yeah.
And something so simple when you are in the creator chair can make a huge difference for people wanting to sign up because you've obviously faced the problems.
Yeah.
And they're going to put a lot more trust into you as opposed to this random faceless company.
100%. Like most sports tech companies are so out of touch, I think. And, it's all driven. I mean, money is one thing, but my theory is that if I solve a problem, the business will look after itself.
Exactly.
And that's really what drives me. And I've realized that there's so much opportunity, like all the sports tech that's built for athletes, it can be a bit expensive, and most athletes are struggling. Like I'm an Olympic athlete, number 1 in Australia, number 1 in Oceania. I don't receive any funding from, anything. Like, I got one amount of $3,000 last year for travel from the Queensland Academy of Sport.
Wow.
That covers a flight. And I'm grateful for that, don't get me wrong. But I mean, it's not what people think. So many young athletes come up to me and say, I want to be like you, you're professional. I'm like, I'm not. Technically, I'm not. Like, I pay my own bills through my business. Like, not, obviously, there are elements where there's gray areas because like I make content and I can make money off that, but I make content of my athletics. So, am I a professional athlete? I'm like, I don't know. But I don't get paid explicitly for doing athletics. According to the system, according to the high performance sports system of Australia, I'm not good enough to receive that support. So I've made my own way. And most athletes are like that. And I think my story is that I want athletes to know you shouldn't care what they think. You got to go for it. Like you got to make it happen for yourself. Like the biggest reason I'm successful is not because of my talent athletically. Okay. It was that plus my ability to check in on my reality. This is where I'm at.
Yep.
This is how much money I have. This is what I need. These are the people I need to connect to. How am I going to overcome these things to get to where I want to go? That's my ability, is to make pathways like that for myself. Talent isn't enough. You have to be real. And a lot of young athletes think just because I'm good, I have potential, people are going to support me. It's like, oh my cares? No one cares. Maybe your mom, maybe your friends, but like at the end of the day, in the world of sport, particularly Olympic sports, there is not a lot of funding because it's very centrally governed, right? And that means there's a lot of bureaucracy in government, and that there's nothing there. Like, you just don't want to be part of that. There's not a lot of innovation in business and whatever. What drives money in sport is attention. You know, how many people are watching, you know, the AFL and NRL, they're commercial businesses, right? And the AFLW is coming up better through that. But in Olympic sports, that's not the case. No. You know, it's run every 4 years. Exactly. It's generally run through the Australian Institute of Sport. So it's not like those other sport commercial models. So therefore, you either get supported by the system and their rules and whatever they dictate, which I don't agree with. I think it's largely redundant. Or you build your own pathway. You either have rich parents or you have a job. That is your options. Yep. And so for me, I got a job. And thankfully, I'm at a point now where I'm getting sponsorship and I'm getting partners that, you know, believe in me and my journey. But it's not just the athletics they believe in. They believe in the story I have to tell. Right. And that's the thing for athletes to realize. It's like, not everyone's going to be the best. I want to be the best. But obviously, I've gone the world champs in the Olympics and I didn't win, okay? But what people love is the story. Exactly. And they see something in you. So for athletes, it's not just about being good. It's like, how can you tell your story? How can you own your story and do it in a way that's authentic to you? Exactly. You don't need 10,000 followers. You just need 100 that care.
Yeah. And tell them the real story, not the highlight reel. They want to know all the setbacks. They want to know how hard it was, because then they can see themselves in, you know, your shoes and realize that anything's possible.
100%. 100%. I think it's too many highlight reels, and I think influencer culture is a little bit dying, which I'm very glad for. Yes. Where young people are starting to realize that, which is really good. And there's a bigger appetite for long form content like this, because you can hear more and go deeper into things. But yeah, I think the nature of things is changing, which is really good. And through that too, I hope more athletes realize there's more opportunity than they think, to think bigger. And to realize if you put the same effort into your sport as you do into other things, you're going to be like amazed at the success you'll find.
Exactly. And it's going to actually improve your performance. Like, I'm sure you felt that.
Oh yeah. The level of confidence I have on a field is ridiculous, because like at the level I'm at now, which is, you know, competing at world champs and Olympics, I would comfortably say probably the only girl in the field with a full-time job.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm still doing it.
And then it doesn't matter if you get injured, because you know you've got something to fall back on.
Exactly. I've got healthy outlets. And also, like, I think I would argue a large reason why a lot of elite Olympic athletes fall into a pit of depression after the events, and it's because they don't have anything else going for them.
Exactly.
Like,
that's
you know,
their whole identity.
You have to break free of that. It's a weakness. And like, I understand the element of go all in. But there are better ways to do it.
Yes.
You know, that doesn't drain your soul of your humanity and who you actually are. Because running and doing athletics is not who I am. It's something I'm very privileged to do.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And like, that's something we talk about a lot, is that your sport is one piece of your identity puzzle. Yeah. You have a whole puzzle, and I'm a big believer of that too. Like, yes, you need to go all in on some things, but you also need to realize that that's only one part of you. You need to invest in relationships, in connection, and things like that. And if you have other skills, as you've said, you've got to be creative and use them to your advantage. And it can all tie into one thing. For me, you know, athlete, semi-elite athlete, whatever you'd want to call it, media, and I love storytelling. This whole podcast has happened because of tying into all these things. What you've done, you've created an app because you're an athlete, software developer. Like, be creative, and again, don't look for someone else to copy. Create your own path, because at the end of the day, we have to be real. We're not getting paid that much or near as much as we deserve. So be smart. Think about things that are outside of the box and how you can generate not only money, but how you can give value. Because as you say, once you create value, the money side will like sort itself out.
Yeah. Solve problems, give more value than you receive, and everything looks after itself. Like the amount of things I've done for free, and then doors have opened to even bigger things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, and also in the value side of things, just know who you are and what you're about, and don't sell out cheap. The amount of times we just like sell ourselves cheap, like short as an athlete, and we don't stick to our guns about what we want and who we want to be associated to. Like, I think it's always better to play the long game, the short wins. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to a young female athlete who is around the 14, 15 mark? They want to go professional. What are some of the best pieces of advice that you've learned from your career that you would bestow upon them?
Well, the first thing I'd say is start tracking your cycles very early. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's actually one of the best bits of advice. I didn't start doing it till my early 20s. But realize that men and women are very different. Okay. And we're not supposed to be comparing ourselves to men and male athletes. We're female athletes. And I think there's lots of reason for it, but I think a large reason the dropout happens is because young girls aren't taught to know themselves and their cycle and how you can shift training to complement it and makes the whole process a lot better, because it can be hard at times, obviously. Start tracking your cycle and understand your physiology and your health as a woman, because if you can get that sorted out early, you'll have longevity in your sport. And it also helps with preventing injuries as well when you start getting your hormones in check. I think that's a very big piece of advice, very practical piece of advice. I think the second thing too is realize the stats are against you, right? You can have your delusion, you can have your goals, 100%, but know that it's very difficult and that it would be stupid not to get a job, get an education, and get these other things in life, right? Because they're going to save you from pits of despair. And they're also going to make you a more broad person, a more well-rounded person, to have those things sorted. And then also you'll build connections outside of sport, because I think a large part of building your identity in sport is having all your friends in your sport, where my closest friends are not, I have close friends in my sport, but my closest friends that are lifelong friends, they're not in it.
Good balance.
Yeah, you got to have that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if we get back onto peak, obviously you can track your cycle in it.
Yeah.
What are other things that you track and what are the best metrics to track?
Yeah. So the two best metrics to track daily as an athlete is your training load, which is very simple. You can actually track it on pen and paper, but it is your perceived effort. So how hard you think a session is on a scale of 0 to 10, multiplied by the duration of your session, so the minutes. So that's training load. Very well researched, rarely tracked because people are like, it's too hard. It's a very important metric. So training load is the first one. The second one is your wellness. So it's in the Peak app, it's a simple questionnaire. You got 7 categories. You answer on a scale from 0 to 7. How are you feeling? What's your stress like today? How recovered do you feel? What's your physical readiness? And that's your check-in, your body literacy. With Peak, we have randomly generated questions each day to help you prod in different ways. But you can also do it without the questions and just answer how you feel, and keep it really simple. So there are 2 ones, because then you start to see how your wellness correlates with your load. So oftentimes when you have a big spike of load, just say you're building really hard, you're not recovering as well, or the other correlations we can pull from that is injury risk. So for instance, for me, my injury risk points are when my stress is high. A lot of my injuries are correlated with that. So when I start to see my stress wellness metric go down, we're like, okay, let's pull back a bit. This is our danger zone, our caution zone. So they're the 2 main ones that everyone should be doing daily as a minimum. And then on top of that, in Peak, you can also connect your wearables and bring in your resting heart rate, HRV, and respiratory rate. And we pull those 3 data points together to develop what's called a heart-lung respiratory index, recovery index, HLR. And that is basically tracking your physiological markers that we can pull from wearables. It's not essential, because with Peak, I don't want you to think you have to have wearables because they're expensive. But if you do have the wearables, you can have that enhanced data point, right? If you have them. And then simple things like your recovery and whatnot. And for me, I track all my training notes. So my reps and times and sets and what I'm doing and how I'm feeling. For instance, in my notes, I'm very I felt a bit flat today, but then warmed up through the session. So I track those sort of things personally. And the reason I do that is because I built AI into it. So my AI is learning about me and my data, and then giving me insights based on that. So it will start to pick up when my tone or my attitude is starting to go down, and it will give me encouragement.
When you get a little bit nasty.
Yeah, it will be real with me. I've told mine to be stern but kind.
I love that. Nice balance.
Yeah. So they're the data points with Peak, and you can share that I can share that with my coach. So my coach sees all my data. So it's like an athlete monitoring system. And then each day I get a readiness score, which helps me gauge how hard I'm going to push. And so far it's been pretty spot on. I'd hope so. I spent a lot of time on that thing.
Yeah.
It's Sam.
It ought to be.
A lot of data. But the basic premise of the readiness score is that we take your acute data. So that's the last 7 to 10 days. And we compare it against your data for the last 28 days to 84 days, depending how long you're logging.
Right.
To figure out what your baselines are. And so if you're peaking for something, theoretically your load comes down compared to your long-term load. So therefore your peak score goes up. That's the basic premise of it. There's a lot of other complexities too that we bring in to make it better, but that's the idea. Yeah.
How important is it, do you think, for girls? Because I know even myself, when I was wearing my Whoop, I would become a little bit too obsessed with the data. How can you have a healthy balance with data, knowing that it is data and that you should not allow it to ruin your day?
Yeah. So first of all, don't check more than once a day. Just once a day is fine. I think the other thing with peak, the huge thing I push, and to the annoyance of my team, but I say peak and the data points we provide are not designed to tell you what to do. We are not telling our users what to do. We are helping them understand how to think about what to do. This is a caution. It's up to you. You can push today if you want, but this is why it's a caution for XYZ of data that you've input. So we're really about using peak as actually an education experience. Like, because being an athlete and training like an athlete, it's quite a process, and you don't learn unless you do it. You can't read a book about it. You just got to do it. You know, I've learned a lot of the stuff I've done by doing, getting injured, and then coming back again, and then winning, and then you learn what works. So check once a day and realize it's a tool. It's not a instructor.
And that says how important body literacy is.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I would say nearly every listener now has been told something from a health professional when they've known themselves that something was a little bit off. And it's like, your body is your responsibility. Yeah. No one knows your body like you do. Data even doesn't know your body like you do. So it's like, at the end of the day, you need to be the one that makes the calls. Don't put all your faith into data or health professionals. Sometimes you need to push back and just say, how am I actually feeling?
Exactly. Well, that's the beauty of peak, because like it's largely subjective. Like even your training load, it's how hard I felt it was.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if your training load is higher than mine. What matters is that relative to our time logging, it's N equals 1. It's just for me. It's my case study for me. And in peak, the HLR, so the wearable data information that comes through, it only has a very small impact on the peak score.
Right.
It's very small. It's negligible. For me, the only time it has a big impact on my peak score is that my HLR, so my wearable data, is largely influenced by my cycle and what phase I'm in. So in the first 18 days or so, really good. And then I have a big drop off. You know, luteal phase obviously has its higher inflammation markers. So and it's good to know that, because then I respect my cycle. I know, okay, it's fine if I'm feeling this way, because
it empowers you.
I'm a female. This is the way it is. So
yeah. What are your opinions on making data accessible and more free for young girls, as opposed to having to sign up for these very expensive subscriptions?
I think it's necessary, you know, and that's what I tried to do with Peak. I've probably given away way too much for free, to be honest. What happened was at the moment you can sign up and get a free account. We do have premium where you can get some extra features which are worthwhile, and particularly if you want to break into some elite, data points. But for the most part, I think every athlete or anyone who wants to train like an athlete should have the basic fundamentals of the data you should be tracking, because like you might not in the first year have, be hitting the elite level, but at least you have, your journey and data there to figure out yourself, and have it there. Like I have I used to do paper journals and whatever, but I think the basic thing of having it there to log and the safety of knowing it's not being sold off without your permission, which is quite prevalent in the sports tech industry, is very important. So, there's 2 points I'm very, very big on. It's like, obviously the legitimacy and relevance of the data, like making sure we're collecting the right things and providing the right data points through sports science and have it all referenced, but equally making sure we handle the data properly. Like I said, 110,000 athlete logs, personal information, like that's important. We have to protect that. And, most people don't realize is that a free product generally means that you're the product.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously I'm in the early days of Peak in generating a business out of it. I don't have any intentions of selling data unless I can turn that data into a digital asset using blockchain technology and then sell it with the permission of the athlete, and that they would get a kickback.
Right.
Yeah.
So how would that look /work? Because that's very interesting.
You will find out when air, at least that hard. But
it is,
so it's a very complicated process because blockchain technology is still a maturing space. very regulated, especially in Australia. I do have a first of its kind exemption to launch a product in Australia, which is coming very soon. But I always knew to do that, I'd have to have a bridging app that was more friendly for the consumer or for the athlete, which is what Peak is. So Peak is the bridge into what I actually want to do, which is give their data. Most of the data elite athletes log in these institutes and teams, they don't own. It's harvested and not rewarded. And if that data is monetized in some way, and the athlete needs a kickback, because most of us aren't really getting anything. So I don't want to promise athletes like $100,000 a year, but better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? And then also the ability to say, this is my athlete profile. Look at, it's like the way I envision it being is like an athlete passport. This is my data. This is my player profile. You don't need to go to my Instagram or Wikipedia anymore. You can just go to my platform. And then, so it's pretty powerful. I mean, this was a large part what I did all that R&D research on. And the backing I've got at the moment and whatnot it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So theoretically speaking, I go into Peak in the future.
Yep.
I log my data for like a year and then you say, hey, Kylie, I want to sell your data. And then I get money from it.
Yep. Wow. Yep. So we need to turn it into a digital asset first. It's called tokenization. So we put it on the blockchain.
Yep.
And then there's this technology called ZPK, which is zero knowledge proof. Wait, I don't even think I got that right. But basically the premise is I can sell your data anonymously without revealing your personal information. And we put it into what's called aggregate data pools. And then because of its distributed ledger technology, I can give you a direct kickback. So obviously we take a cut. It has to be a business. Yeah. But you'd get better than nothing.
And it incentivizes you to track it.
Yeah, it incentivizes you to track it and put it there. And a very good example of how this works practically nowadays is if you use the Qantas app and you are logging your healthy habits, you can get cheaper health insurance premiums.
Well,
so there's the value of data in a very small example.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I am extremely excited for that. Bring that on. So wrapping up, let's get straight into the 4TG segment. Knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell younger Tori, the one that you said earlier that you really wanted to make proud?
Buy more Bitcoin.
I love it. Get into crypto earlier.
I bought Ethereum in 2017. I should have bought way more.
God, I wish you told younger Kylie that too.
Gosh.
Missed the boat.
Yeah, buy more Bitcoin, definitely. Yeah.
I love it. I haven't had that one before, so that's brilliant. Why do more girls and women need to stay in sport?
Because sport gives you a healthy community connection with other people, right? It's a healthy way to connect and be a part of a team or physically get better. But also just like, if you actually want to do sport, you have to be healthy, right? You have to get your hormones in check. You have to make sure your nutrition and sleep. And those things, sport holds you to a level of accountability that you wouldn't have elsewhere, if you want to do it. So just the health benefit, it just feels good to feel good. So why not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I have absolutely loved this chat. I've learned a lot and I'm sure the viewers will have as well. Where can they find you and where can they find Peak?
Yes. Well, you can find me on Instagram, Tori West __, on TikTok too. I have YouTube, but I don't post enough to say go there. And also with Peak, you just go to peak.app on a browser. So don't go to the App Store. It's not there. I did that for a very good reason because the App Stores take 30% of revenue and then I have to make it expensive. So basically you go to peak.app, save it to your phone and it looks and feels and operates just like an app. Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
That's so cool. I've downloaded it and I'm starting to use it and I'm loving it. So highly recommend to everyone. Well, thank you so much for jumping on, and to every listener who got value from this, please share it with someone who needs to hear this sort of stuff. It really is groundbreaking to hear athletes who have been through it and that they can actually save you a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of heartache in the process. So please send it through, subscribe to 4TG and ensure that we can keep growing the podcast, get more brilliant guests on like Tori. Thank you very much and we'll catch you next week. You've been listening to 4TG, where the future of women's sport is being shaped, one story at a time. If today's episode hit home, subscribe, rate 5 stars and send it to someone who needs that push. Stay in the loop at 4TG_podcast or on 4TG.com. We'll see you next time. Same mission, same movement. This one was for the girls.